Hi, everybody. I hope y'all are doing well. I hope y'all are having a great day today. If you're new here, I want to welcome you to School of Scarlet, the School of Unconditional Love. And if you're a returning subscriber or returning viewer, thank you so much for tuning back in. And I want to welcome all my new subscribers. Thank you so much for subscribing. And remember to share this content and get this information out there so we can have a more loving and peaceful world. So today we're going to be talking about the 5D. 5D is something that's kind of new to me, but in the same sense, I understand what it is. So in the spiritual community, there's a lot of mention of moving up in dimensions. But essentially, when you have a shift, you don't really see hierarchy, although when I speak, sometimes it sounds like there is. Because our language is like that and our experiences are like that. There seems to be hierarchy, there seems to be levels, there seems to be a place that you start and end, and this and that. But essentially, there is no timelines that are like that. All of them exist at the same time. So you can actually access anything at any time. So you could access where you were in the very beginning of something or where you were in the very end of something or middle, whatever. It's all here and now in this moment. So within these spiritual communities that talk so much about the 5D, 3D, the 3D is our reality that we see here, our relative reality according to these things. And I'm talking about this as a story. Everything that we talk about really is a story. It's all really just an illusion. But within this story, these stories are really important for the person. Sometimes they get into really believing that there is this 3D, 5D, and all of this. And in one sense, it does make sense. It even makes sense for unconditional love. And so I'll go into that in a moment. But essentially, when you have a shift, everything kind of jumbles up and breaks. And you see that without the reality of time, there is no beginning, end, or any of these things. And even greater than that, really, there is no individual selves. There is just the one source. And out of that, everything is fractalized and has a piece of that, is part of that, and has a direct connection to that at all times. So, yeah, without time and space, it really kind of breaks everything to where, okay, there can't really even be a hierarchy because at the same time that, let's say, the president of the United States is existing, there's also a version of him where he is a homeless man. So there is all existing at one time. There is infinite identities for each person. Every single decision that you make, there's a bunch of decisions that maybe you didn't make. All of those go out into timelines, and they all are different lives, different things, but essentially they are just the one source. And I know this can be a lot for the mind to handle or to really piece out, but it is how it is. And so there's really nothing wrong about this. It's actually very exciting. A lot of people will go through this nihilistic phase of really not feeling like anything, like doing anything, because what's the point? It already all exists and this and that. Well, actually, we can choose and create our own reality. So if you're feeling so limited as to say, hey, what's the point here? You know, there's nothing that I can do. That's a limitation that you're putting upon yourself, thinking that there's nothing that you can do. There's many experiences that you feel that you haven't experienced in this body, in this moment. At least I can say I've only experienced these things that are in my memory and whatnot. And, you know, I can experience many different parts of my timeline if I just tap into them, if I just imagine, if we just get that going in this reality. So we can do that. And so it becomes very exciting. It's not something to just sit back and not do anything, unless that's what you feel is good for you. I did go through a phase because I had worked so hard in my life, in my career, with my daughter, and you know everything that had happened. There was a time that I wanted to kind of have that hermit mode and just kind of take time to myself. And I did make a video about that, about the gap year. And so the gap year, it's okay if you need to take some time to yourself. Really, this is all about listening to your heart, listening to your inner voice of your heart, and really following that. So if it's telling you to rest, it's time to rest. If it's telling you, hey, I want to try out this reality, I want to try out this reality, then go ahead. So this is for you to choose. Now, in this video, we're talking about 5D. So there's this emphasis on getting to the 5D, and that the 5D is where everything's perfect, basically. Well, actually, everything's happening at once. And the way that I perceive it is that, yes, we could say we are in the 3D. And in this 3D, random things happen. Sometimes things break. Sometimes we have someone angry at us, or sometimes, things don't turn out how we want. So there's the possibilities of a lot of things happening. And a lot of the things that have been happening, we could say aren't always in our favor. And until we start aligning with our heart, that doesn't really change a whole lot. Life just continues on in that way. But as soon as we begin to align with our heart and really trust it fully and having complete faith in really ourselves, then things begin to shift. And then, oh, it's very nice here. And you really don't have a lot of the conflicts that you had prior. So, what is the 5D? We keep going around this. The 5D, in my perspective, is really just unconditional love. So, the 5D is existing here with the 3D. Now, you're in 3D, here I am, but there is this 5D version, which is your heart, which is yourself. But a lot of times we feel separate from it. Now, this is a distinction. It's not separate from us, and the 5D is not an actual separate location that we go to. Just like heaven or hell, in my perception, is not somewhere you go to. It's a state of consciousness. It's a state of being that just happens based on what you're doing at the moment and what you're resonating with and that sort of thing. So when you're in this 3D body and you begin to have these things happening to you, you're out in the world, maybe you've had a bad day. If we begin to take on that, oh, I'm just unlucky, I always have bad days, bad things always happen to me, then that begins to cycle and turn into that. That now is your reality. So every day, things will happen to you. So you have to kind of shift that. And how do we shift that? Is by tapping into the 5D. Now, the 5D, many people think is way in some galaxy outside of us or some other location. It's not. It's right here in the heart. So all we have to do to tap into 5D is literally move into the heart and really examine that. Is it true that only bad things happen to me and all of this? Okay. Well, it happens a lot, but it's not all the time. It doesn't always happen. So we can kind of begin to negate some of those things, even logically. But if we would just want to go to the heart, we can just go to the heart and begin to love ourselves. And that in turn is the 5D. As soon as we get to love ourselves, that neutralizes anything. Unconditional love is basically neutral. And that's not to say it's an apathetic, boring thing. It's a neutral thing that is accepting anything, whether that's you being upset, as they call it, lower vibrations, which I don't ascribe to that stuff. But if you are, in this lower vibration, you accept that as it's just happening. And I'm angry or I'm sad about this. And as soon as you begin to realize what it is that, you're sad about or where it came from or whatnot, it alchemizes it. It neutralizes it into unconditional love. And then you feel peace again. And so the 5D literally is love. So in my view, 5D is unconditional love. And the 3D is fear. Okay, all there is love. It's still all love. Fear actually is love because it's going to eventually push you out of your comfort zone to go closer to love. But the 3D is really kind of saturated with a lot of the fear, a lot of that. And it's really because all of this consciousness of 3D is wanting to really push out and past that and go to 5D, which is unconditional love. But there is still a lot of that going on, and that can go on for a long time. And a long time is relative, right? It just depends on what you say, and you can change that. So you have the power. But generally, if we leave things how they are, fear on the 3D here where we are is going to continue. But within the hearts of the people, even in the 3D, if they are aware of the 5D, which is the unconditional love, and they choose love over fear when they're making choices or they're moving about life, those individuals are actually living in the 5D. So after I had my twin flame journey, I was in a twin flame union, and it was amazing. And in that union, I hadn't had my realization or anything like that. But in that union, there was so many times I felt that I was like in another world. And then not on top of that, I also felt this feeling of heaven. And I really felt that I was in heaven. And I really began to realize that heaven is here on earth. And when we can tap into love and we can really be here, really in this moment, loving what is happening here, that is heaven. And it really opened my eyes to beauty, which is a whole nother sense. We have our five senses and we feel and see different things, and we use our touch, smell, taste. But there is another sense, and it's not just vision, it's not just seeing something, it's really seeing something. And so this opened up during my twin flame journey, and it's still remained this sense of really seeing beauty. So when I see things, it's not just how I used to see them, it's very different. I used to really not see things. I realize now I really didn't see anything. I thought I saw things, but I didn't. So now I see things really deeply into how beautiful they are. First of all, everything I look at just becomes beautiful to me, and it's a very beautiful thing. I could go a little further into it, but it could sound a little weird. But it is very beautiful. And even deeper than that, I can tap into that consciousness of it. And so it begins to really become very alive for me. So beauty is something that's actually very alive. But before the twin flame journey, I really had a different way of viewing things. And it's not a perception. To me, it seems like it's a sense. Because when I'm out of my usual environment, I'm driving around or I'm at a store, a different place, I'm just mesmerized by how beautiful or how interesting things really are. So, this is a new sense that you get to tap into. And so, the 5D, or being with love, opens up so many more senses that really it feels like you're in heaven. That's what it feels like. And so, to me, I really realized even back in that moment that heaven and hell is really a state of mind, a state of consciousness. It's really not a place you go to. You can have heaven here. And even after my twin flame passed away and I didn't have him and there was lots of suffering, I've experienced heaven on earth still. Now, I don't live at that level at all times, but I can certainly experience it. So we're not meant to live on unconditional love all the time, at least not right now, because it's a lot. There is a lot going on, as you could say, in that 3D realm that we're talking about. And so it is just the way it is. And it also requires, it's a lot of energy, it's a lot of purity. And so it takes a lot from you as well. In a certain way, it sometimes energizes you and other times it can deplete you depending. And so it's a very interesting energy that is not yet balanced, at least not within me. So for me, it's some of the times I am in that unconditional love state, and other times I'm just in a kind of like a neutral state and just doing my thing, but really tuned into love. But I'm not with this energy, and you can feel this thing in your body, so you feel when you're at that state. But anyhow, basically, this 3D realm and 5D realm, you could see it as many things. You could see the 3D as hell, people that are stuck in fear, guilt, shame, all these stories that are very negative, we could say. um, all of those stories we could say is hell, because imagine being in a state of mind where you're fearful of things, where you're in lack, you don't feel that you have anything or can keep anything or get anything, and then you feel that you're losing people, you're losing love, you're losing this or that. That's a state of hell. So we could say the 3D is a state of hell, where the 5D, when we're connected to love, we have connection, we have unity, we see beauty, we see love, and we're able to connect through that. We feel full, we feel alive, we feel expansive, we feel like we can do anything. We feel like things are coming for us, and we're not in a lack mentality, we're in a mentality of abundance and receiving. And we're in a state of giving as well. So when you have love, it's a whole nother way of being. And we could say that 5D could also be called heaven. But because I have a school of Scarlet, and in my school, what we focus is on unconditional love, my terminology is the 5D is unconditional love. And we could say that the 3D is just your relative usual life that everybody leads. So once you tap into unconditional love, that is the 5D. And you could be in the 3D, living here, doing everything you do, and tap into the 5D at any time. We do this all the time, and you do this all the time. But some of us are more conscious of it, some of us are not. And so, if you want to become more conscious of this, to be able to live basically in this more heavenly state of reality, you're going to want to connect with your heart. And your heart really is who you truly are. So, really, what they say, what's seeking you is seeking, what's seeking you is seeking yourself. So, it's basically you're seeking yourself, right? So, whatever you've been after. And I talked about this in my last video, the dangling carrot of, oh, it's this is going to make you happy or this is going to do it. And those are really just all illusions. The real thing to get, the real thing that should be dangled there is you, and you should be clawing at it to be that. And once you get it, once you can be you, you exist. Okay? And so there's this point in time in the awakening process that you feel like a no self. Everything kind of falls away, but at some point, you have this uh, unmeasurable amount of love that comes through, and it's just like you exist. And it's not just existing as this limited person. You exist as part of Source. You exist as Source, and you exist as this expression at this time that really wants to be expressed. And to not express it is almost is almost is almost evil, or if we were to put that, and evil doesn't exist, but it's almost blasphemous not to let it exist, because this is what Source Creator is wanting it to exist. And so for me, when that happened, it was like, oh, there's no stopping this. This has to exist. What's been placed in your heart has to exist, whether you have desires of working with animals, working with children. Maybe you would really love to have a big family. Maybe you would really like to who knows what it is, be an artist, scientist, whatever it happens to be. There is something there that wants to be expressed, and it is very divine and unique, and it wouldn't be there if it didn't need to be expressed. It's not that it needs to, it loves it. It wants to be expressed because it loves itself. But our brain, conditioning, so many other things have said, no, what's in there is not needed. We actually need this. But all those people saying that, they don't know. They don't realize what I'm talking about. They don't realize maybe what you are realizing. And that's okay. But you got to do you. And so if they're not ready or they don't understand this, that's okay. That's okay. There is no need to persuade them, talk to nothing. All you have to do is honor yourself and let your light shine. And that's all you got to do. And in that process, those others will begin to shine their light, and they'll be able to see that it's okay to shine our light. And you begin to have a lot more lights shining, and it becomes very beautiful. And yes, some people will not accept this. Some people will not want to be around this because it is such a different energy than the one that they are at this moment. And that's okay. Let them go. Let them go. So this is a very non-judgmental thing. You have people in your life that may be like this. All you have to do is just do you. And if they leave and remove themselves, then that's just the way it is. Everything that is happening for you and your expansion. And so there's been this whole thing. I've gotten many questions about how to move from the 3D to the 5D, or asking me, do I reside in the 5D? No, I reside just like you, here, everywhere. I'm just like you. There's nothing different between you and I at all, really, other than the unique expression that maybe we are expressing differently, but we're both expressing love. We're both needing to express that, or that's what's wanting to happen here. But essentially the same. The only difference is we can believe fear and believe it to be real, or we can work with love and really transmute fear. That's the only difference. So, choosing your heart is pretty much the simplest way to put it. We could talk about 5D. We can even talk about non duality. We can even talk about ascension, all these weird things that all these words, they're all pointing to the same thing. After I had my realization, I really realized that every religion is, well, most, I don't know every religion, so I can't say that, but most religions that I've studied, and I have a degree in religion. I went to university for religion and I studied all the different religions, and they mostly focused on a lot of Western type stuff and some Islam stuff. But even after that, I studied things. And in all of those religions, it's all pointing towards the same thing, although it's hidden in ways. For whatever reason, maybe I have my own speculations why it's been this way. But it's all a story. It doesn't really matter why. Those are just stories that the brain is trying to piece together because it's funny like that. But everything's pointing you to you. It doesn't matter if you go study science. It doesn't matter if you go study Buddhism. It doesn't matter if you study um, crystals, or I don't know, whatever is out there. It's all going to be pointing you and leading you back to you. It may not say it so clearly like I am, or maybe some people on YouTube will, but you will be pointed back to you. And it's your decision when you feel that in your heart, whether or not you're going to hang on and really listen to your heart, or if you're going to just disregard all of this wisdom and just go back to fear. So the 3D and the 5D are all occurring at the same time. Everything is happening now, everything is happening here, and you have access to all of it at all times. So you decide, everything's happening for you. This whole game of whatever we're playing here is happening for you. So you decide, do you want to play the fear game? Do you want to play in that fear game, like a horror movie and do all that stuff? That can be exciting. I like to watch some horror movies and things sometimes. Or do you want to go play in love? And do you want to have some loving experiences? So it's your decision, and there's stuff in between. So this is just the game of life, and 4D, 3D, 5D, whatever you want to call it. I've heard all the way up to 9D. These things are just different states of consciousness, and they're just different ways of being, really. We can even see this just in our relative world, how, and that's what I'm talking about. There's people that are in this state of consciousness and they're leading maybe more dramatic, exciting lives. You could talk like the Jerry Springer life, or maybe there's like the, in the middle ground, there's these kind of people that are leading, stable, maybe more family oriented lives. And then there's these people here that are doing more entrepreneurs, business, who knows? And there's no hierarchy here. It's just what's happening. There's just different ways of being. And in those different ways of being, there's different levels of different things of consciousness. It doesn't really matter. It's just all happening to happen for play. But since it's already happened and it's all here and now, it has really no meaning. Um, you know, when we think that we are lacking something, when we think that we don't have something, when we think that we aren't something or whatever, at that same moment, the other version of ourselves is existing there too. So all we have to believe is that it is true, and that we are that, and we can have that. It literally will just, we can shift into that. And so it's that simple. But we really have to be tapped into love, and it has to be a complete and total trust and faith in it. If we don't believe in our hearts, if we don't believe in ourselves, then it's going to be very difficult because we don't trust that. We don't trust ourselves. And what happens when we don't trust ourselves? Well, things, we get tripped up a lot. So we have to begin by trusting ourselves. And in this moment, if you can just stop for a moment and kind of look back in your life and see the things you've been through, the experiences you've had, and up till this moment. In this moment, can you say that you can trust yourself? Maybe you did a lot of things unconsciously. There's nothing wrong with that. But even then, can you say that you can trust yourself? Because when we look at these things, we see that in each moment, we've always made the best choice or decision that we could have with everything that we had at our circumstances and what we had to work with at that time. We've always made the best choice, the best decision even when it doesn't look like that to others outside. To us, we know that we've made the best decision for ourselves. And we can see where we are now, and we can see even maybe where we were many years ago. And it's very interesting if you have journals and things like that, open those up. Take some time this week to look at how you were 5, 10 years ago, whatever, even 1 year ago. Pull up your social media if you have that and go back and see what you were doing. What's most telling is things like a journal or a diary, but you can see that you can begin to trust yourself. You've made good decisions. You've always been loving yourself generally. There's been times, yes, we've been hurting ourselves and really sabotaging ourselves, but that's because of the circumstances of that time. It was a very painful time. There was a lot going on. And to survive that, for whatever reason, you had to do these things. We give ourselves grace and love when we see that. Okay. And we can only see that after we've been through it. So take some time to look back on your life and really begin to trust yourself. As you begin to trust yourself, then you can follow your heart easily, because there will be a fight. The ego will want to fight for control. The ego never really leaves. The ego is just a part of your brain. It's just the logical part of you, and it's needed. It serves a good purpose, but it wants to fight. It wants everything to come up here and it make its own decisions. But we're going to make a shift, and it's going to go down here, and that shift is going to be uncomfortable a little bit, but you got to trust yourself that you're moving in the right direction, and you always have. So really just follow your heart. There's no direction. It's whatever the heart wants. So listen to that. If you are interested in reorienting to the heart and you would like to participate in a course, I do offer a 3-month course. It's called the Unconditional Course, and I am enrolling right now until 10/10. We do have a special price until 9/9, and that is like the lowest price you will ever see. It's really a no-brainer. It's less than I charge for one-on-one sessions. So this is the time to really take this course and just go with it and really reorient to the heart so you can be living authentically and living a life that is just giving you more of you. So I hope that you'll take that chance. I will link everything in the comments and in the description. If you like this video, give me a thumbs up. Share this video, get it out there, and thank you so much for tuning in today.